No, just get it going because we're a minute away from noon. So,
Okay, do you want me to send it to all buyers, like everyone on our platform?
sure.
Okay, all right,
Bye.
I'll do that.
Okay, bye.
All right, just shoot it over to me.
I'm not shooting anything. You got to go look for it.
Okay, yeah. I'll
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks. Okay, bye.
All right, so we are live, Steve.
How are you, Mike?
I am doing well, and yourself?
Good.
Excellent. What I do want to get set up here, though, is
I wish I could hear you better, though.
do you have Bluetooth?
Maybe now.
How does that sound?
Yeah, somewhat.
All right.
As long as you can hear me, I guess.
This is true. Let me just share the screen. All right. Oh, one last thing I gotta do. Ash, are you gonna do the SmartMarket update for the week? Yes. It's just the first 3-4 minutes of it. So, which trade are you gonna talk about? I don't know. Oh, let's talk about the. I got it. No, the one that called us. Yeah. All right. Wow. Whoa, where'd he go? My guest has left the stream. So, hello everyone. Welcome. It is Friday. About 1 minute. Oh, it's the regular. Okay. Boy, I tell you, we have had a very busy last few days here, and including this morning. And I am just a little bit behind on being ready for this. Got to get the link for Ash to jump into the call here. There you are, Steve.
How are you, pal?
I'm doing good. We're just waiting for my colleague Ash to jump on.
How's the weather over there?
Oh, so my son wanted my car today, which meant that I had to figure out a way to get to work. No big deal. I took those electric bikes you can rent, and I had to ride one of them to the train station.
Oh,
And by the time I got to the train, which is about 1.5 miles away, I was pretty cold, and I figured out I forgot my wallet. So then I called my wife, and she gave me a ride to work.
wow.
Yes, it was very,
I
very
remember
kind.
those days. I remember those days. I come from back there.
Yeah, where did you grow up? Where?
I come from Brooklyn, local 940.
Come from Brooklyn.
Transferred to San Diego. Figured out New York's a good place to be from.
Yes. How about it, right? Yeah, I think I don't know, we're about 15, 20 degrees today.
Yep.
Not too bad. Sunny skies. Interesting. We can see Lake Michigan from our office, and first time in many years, it's actually
79.
nice.
Right?
All right, so we got Ash on the line. Ash,
I want to make sure.
Hey, Mike.
why don't you start us off? Tell us about the trade of the week.
2 trades of the week, and this is a perfect reason why people should be using MaterialsXchange. Yesterday, we had a user up in Madison, Wisconsin, looking for some 2330 seconds OSB. It came all the way from Dallas, Texas. Actually, 3 trades of the week. 2 days ago, we had a new lister, couldn't understand the power of our platform. His sales guys on the floor wanted to take the opportunity to sell it. They couldn't. We matched something from Baltimore all the way down to Houston, Texas. This about 10 minutes ago. Just matched 7/16 OSB load all the way out from California to Oklahoma. So you could see no people would have been able to been on phone calls to find that. So that shows the power of the platform. One of our biggest trading days yesterday. This morning we started out, sold 30 loads of Euro spruce off the ports. So we're scaling again today, Mike.
Yeah, Ash. What you're highlighting right there is the digital network. Look, I'll be blunt. You're foolish not to tap into a digital network. To go from zero to connected to everybody on the network by just logging in, you can't make that many phone calls, right? Like Ash, you and I have been doing this for a long time. You could never get that coverage.
Yeah, and I fully appreciate the good old boy call around market, and I still do it sometime. But if you're not using technology and the power of your personal network, there's other people doing it. We had a mill get on yesterday, and there was 4 people on his trading floor. He was probably in his 20s, and everybody else, he said, none of the other guys wanted to get on it. He's making the initiative to get on it.
Yeah, it's just, and every day it grows. Every day that we expand the network, it grows. Ash, let's just highlight one other thing before we let you go. Let's talk about this phone call that we got earlier this week.
Yeah. We had a custom home builder. And if you don't know the difference between a big production home builder and a custom home builder, production home builders build big boxes with kind of nice elevations, but not as many as a custom home builder. A custom home builder is exactly what they say: custom homes, more elevations, different creativity in the trusses they need, so more specialized trusses. Well, she said they have a lot of homes, and this is Florida, with the block walls up and everything done, but they can't. Their truss manufacturer called and said, "We can't supply you with your trusses anymore." And they were like, "What?" So think about it. They came to us. We don't make trusses, but people that build trusses buy from us. So she tried calling to Georgia all the way to Louisiana to Texas. Nobody can supply her with trusses. So she's kind of still trying to find. We supply her with as much information as we can. But it kind of shows you that last mile of delivery right now, how with logistics, commodities, COVID, everything else, it's really kind of in a bit of a cluster right now. They'll all remedy themselves eventually, but it seems when one gets remedied, something else pops up, right? So I just thought it was very interesting that call, Michael. You can take it from there.
I'll just talk about a call yesterday from Home Builder. They're having problems sourcing the tubing, the flex tube for their HVAC systems for like in the attics. And what's interesting is they're not just going to sit there and go, "Oh, we're going to wait for that to come to fruition." They're redesigning the HVAC systems and going with the ones that go right through the wall that eliminate the need for ductwork. So I think there's a silver lining in the supply chain constraints that we're having right now. It's making people think out of the box. And just because we did it that way yesterday doesn't mean we have to do it that way tomorrow. And, there's going to be better solutions that come out of this. So,
Exactly.
All right, Ash, hey,
I'm popping.
Get back at it.
Okay.
We'll see you next week. All right. So our guest today, let me let you get a better view, is Steve Conboy. Hello, Steve.
How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great. And we are keeping with a theme that we started last week, which is fire protection. And Steve has been in the industry pretty much his whole life. He was a union carpenter in Brooklyn, New York. He decided that Brooklyn is a better place to be from than to live in. So he moved to San Diego. Worked at Weyerhaeuser Truss Joist. And understands the engineering that goes into construction. And more importantly for this discussion, he understands the issues regarding fires. So I'm going to flip over to his screen. I'll put up screen. This is their website. His company's called Mighty Firebreaker. And Steve, first, tell us about this chemical that is, I believe it's patented by you. And what does it do?
It's different than on lumber. It's different than pressure impregnation. And wildfire defense is different than the fire retardants that you see dropped out of planes. It's different than the barricade gels. It's different than the firefighting foams. It's an aqueous base, 100% food grade fire inhibitor. So in other words, a fire retardant will slow fire. A fire inhibitor, it eliminates the ability for ignition. So if you're using it in wildfire defense and you have a locked and loaded system ready to defend your property, we activate them. They can be activated remotely, or the property owner can activate it before they evacuate to saturate the structure, to saturate around the structure, to eliminate, the biggest cause for loss in wildfires is the wind-driven embers, like we just saw in Colorado. Those dry grasses that Colorado advanced on, if they're sprayed ahead of time with my fire inhibitor, MFB 31 Citrotech, it doesn't matter how strong the wind is, you'd never get an ignition. And it could be there 2 months ahead of time. But for property owners to know that they have a system in place in case, God forbid, one of those fires approaches their community, that locked and loaded system removes the anxiety of living in wildland fire regions, gives them a second line of defense, so you're not counting on and hoping enough fire trucks can show up with water.
Right.
So,
and what we know about a wildfire is it moves through quickly. I mean, it causes a great deal of damage, but it moves through quickly. So, this system that you have, like you said, you deploy it, get the heck out of there, and then after the fire blows through, you come back, and theoretically, you're going to have your structure, and it's going to be there intact and protected.
Yeah, and there's no cleanup like spraying your house full of gel and foam. This product gets sprayed on your siding, sprayed on your roof. The only thing you'd have to clean up is the windows as it dries with the solids left behind. So, it's an amazing chemistry. It's been proven in the building industry all over the United States in 5-story, high-density urban infill projects. Somebody responded to me on LinkedIn and said that product's amazing. It was sprayed on some of the projects we're doing, and we took some of the wood that was sprayed and we put a torch on it and held it on it forever and couldn't get ignition. So the chemistry, basically, I'm also involved in oil and gas. I mean, the key to all fires is to be proactively locked and loaded before the fire arrives. Everything in early fire elimination is to be ready to defend before fire takes off, so you're not fighting a dragon. Exactly. And that's what we're trying to teach in wildfire defense and wood framing.
So let's flip to lumber and what we're all the users of our listeners here and the users of Materials Exchange are about, which is lumber. And you have some interesting ideas about just the designs of houses, number one, and what you need to be thinking about when you're talking about fires. So touch on that.
Well, listen, the industry knows for the most part that, we're building out of Doug fir, which is grown in the western region, mainly in California up into Canada. We got the spruce coming out of Canada. We got the southern yellow pine, some hemp fir coming into the northeast. But at the end of the day, when you spray lumber with the chemistry, it creates Class A in ASTM E84 extended. Does it have to be pressure impregnated? No. To meet the code, do you have to be pressure impregnated? The pressure impregnators will say yes. But the code basically says it's either pressure impregnated to meet E84 under 25 in flame spread or an alternative method. Today, there's an alternative method. But the real goal is, the little bit of fire-treated lumber that we use on buildings is typically an exterior wall. Let them buy it from the source, the plywood and the studs there. It has to be stamped. But it's the 95% of the lumber in the building is now cost effective to make it fireproof, because no matter what you have on an exterior wall, if the interior lumber is burning, that exterior wall has no value to you at all. witnessed it on the Houston fire rescue. The walls collapsed. So I'm the guy that brought the most cost-effective fire protection program to the builders because I'm a lumber guy, I'm a builder, and I basically think that we need to go towards more buildings with wood. I'm a big supporter of the mass timber movement, and go to a balanced build with less concrete and steel vertical, keep it in the ground, keep it in infrastructure, and to support housing starts, we should go with wood, a renewable, sustainable product.
So let's touch on the CLT for a second. One of the headwinds they have is the whole idea of, this is going to burn down, right? Because it's made out of a flammable material. When you take any structure and you can build the superstructure out of a non-flammable material, the first thing you do is put a bunch of flammable stuff in it. So fires will start no matter what you're in, what kind of building. And the important thing is maintain the integrity of that building while obviously people can get out, get safe, and the fire department can come and try to protect it. So how do you envision your product being used in the CLT type construction?
Well, I've been involved in mass timber probably longer than most people in the United States. The prototype was built on my wall panel plant in BC. I tried to convince them then to add additional fire protection to it, especially during construction before the drywall and sprinklers are there to defend. And, they think the E119 is enough. It meets the code, but, it creates a 450 in smoke index. Will that kill you? Yeah. Does it meet the code? Yeah. The value-add fire protection that could be applied in the factory gives you additional fire protection against flame advance. So that's less you have to replace. And the smoke index could be reduced to 70 so that the guys in a building are safer in exiting during a fire. They've never had a fire. They've never been hit by the arsons. But I'm the guy that created the protection for the arson because last year there was 37 arson attacks on high-density stick frame. Will there ever be one on mass timber? There's a lot of arson activity today, more than ever before. And you pull up to a mass timber building and you hit it with fuel on the second floor in the middle of the night before the fire trucks can get there, you might have a problem.
Yeah. So
the other reason we want to add the additional value is I'm concerned about all the connections and the moisture and the snow and the rain during construction settles into connections that could cause a problem in engineering values. In other words, when they're wet and the water settles into a connection, you got to worry about rot beginning, and 5% rot is equal to 80% engineering loss. And we can't afford that in tall structures that want to be around for over 100 years when you're talking about high-rise out of wood. We need to defend engineering values. A lot of the engineers agree with me. We can do it. The other one is I'm a mold expert, spent a lot of time as an expert in the courts because the mold construction defect that hit California, we were the epicenter of it. Wet wood creates mold. Can we defend it? Yeah. It adds right to the fire protection. And the easy part of value add fire, mold, and moisture protection is if we apply it in the factory before those who go out into the weather, it might be worthy of a carbon tax credit or a carbon trade. First time in the wood building industry for a carbon trade. Big. That's a big thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to touch on that. We spoke about that yesterday. Give us a quick little intro to when you say carbon trade. What does that mean, carbon trade?
I wrote a white paper report. The Woodworks and all the mass timber guys have seen it by now. One of the architects in New York wanted an award from them. They transferred him to Oregon to work for them, and I had lunch with him a few times in New York, and he said, "Keep doing what you're doing. It's big. I just can't support it because they're paying me now." So at the end of the day, I'm after adding the additional protection And I told you I'm almost finished with my book, which is Nature's Screaming. Are we ready to listen? And what I'm saying is nature, we should pay attention to nature's science because nature sequesters the CO2. Humans cut 50% of the trees off the planet. What we need to do is learn how to plant as many as we harvest to sequester our CO2. But then what I'm saying is when we add the additional protection, perception of loss is out for the risk management guys that want to drive your risk premiums tall so you're not competing against concrete and steel. We remove that perception for the risk management guys, you lower the cost of it. But if we can defend the carbon stored, we can basically create carbon trades and a carbon tax credit to motivate builders to do it. In other words, you have to defend the carbon stored from ever being released back to the environment to be worthy of a carbon trade. Otherwise, you're going to get money for something that could have a loss down the road. You can't have it happen. And I met with a couple of congressmen in California that agreed with me. The lumber guys, the big lumber giants, have been trying to get carbon trade forever. And I said, how can anybody get a carbon trade if a fire would release the carbon back into the environment? So if we all gathered together on this most cost-effective way to add fire, mold, and moisture defense in the factory, what makes it so great is factory built can create the chain of custody proof on the amount of board footage. The calculators are available now to determine how many tons of carbon based on board footage are in that building.
All right, so I'm gonna interpret here. So there's industries out there that release carbon. There's nothing they can do about it. That is their industry. But governments will go in and tell that industry, you need to offset the carbon that you're releasing with carbon that's been sequestered. And how they do that is they go buy a carbon credit.
Correct.
And the way you create a carbon credit is by sequestering the carbon and capturing it and putting it in such a state that it could never go back into the environment.
Correct.
The easy way to do it is you plant a tree. You let that tree grow. As it grows, it's a vacuum. It's sucking carbon out. You harvest the tree, turn it into a product that will permanently contain that carbon, which is something that's not going to burn. Because when you burn the tree or burn that fiber, it turns back into carbon.
What are you going to do? Give back the credit? You see what I mean?
Right. So if you can prove that you've taken the carbon out, you've treated it, so in the unlikely event of a fire, it still will not release that carbon, you have essentially created a carbon credit, which you could sell. So,
and here's where it's really valuable in mass timber. When you go to multiple plies in mass, all you're defending is the 6 sides of the outside. And you get the value of all the plies inside.
Correct.
And I have carbon. I'm under contract with Carbon Engineers in the UK. So what we do with the builders, we need the location, chain of custody, board footage, species of lumber. We create the carbon trade. It costs you nothing. We then go find the buyer for the trade because it might not be in the U.S. yet because it's too low in the U.S. versus other countries. We don't care what country we get the trade in. But this trade will support the value add, maybe for free. It'll also support some reforestation. And this will change the wood industry forever. It'll be the biggest thing that's ever happened in the wood industry. And we are motivated by what Ben Franklin says. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Do that, you reduce your risk premium. It's worthy then of the investment for the builder to add additional protection to it. It's clear. It doesn't change the color of it. Has 0 VOCs. This is the future, but you're never going to get it to trade until we defend that carbon storage.
Yeah,
that's what nature's screaming about.
And
finish what I'm doing.
Yeah, in theory, this absolutely makes sense. And the reason we brought you on was because I think you're onto something here. It's a great theory. Let's help each other out. We know we're going to emit carbon. Let's figure a way to suck it out. And in the process of that, let's figure out better ways to build as well. Like that, I think that's the overall theme. even in the the pandemic crisis that we're in, and we just had housing starts come out this week. Permits were 1.8 million, starts were 1.6.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that's over a 10% difference in the demand compared to what we can actually build.
You know who the largest factory builder today in the United States is?
I have a guess, but who is it?
Warren Buffett.
Oh, of course, yeah. He owns the Champion Industries and the
Berkshire Hathaway.
Right, they own the manufactured housing people in like northern Indiana.
I've been talking to a consultant for them, telling them that because they're factory built, we could create a carbon trade because you have to have auditable chain of custody. So when you factory build, you can easily create chain of custody based on the board footage going into every house. They use about 50 million board feet a month.
Right.
Okay, so now what happens is the first national builder on prefab housing goes fire and mold protection and gets the value add for free. And basically part of a carbon trade, we want to push some of the carbon trade for reforestation. We want to be able to plant as much as we cut. You follow me?
Of course.
Because we know juvenile trees sequester more carbon than an old growth tree does. And, that's why the mass timber movement's so big right now, because we're able to take juvenile lumber and get it to create bending values that it couldn't do before when the I-joist showed up or when OSB showed up, because the juvenile lumber doesn't have enough veneers to keep up with the veneer demand for plywood. This is the next evolution. Labor shortage, mass timber. Bending values, mass timber. Ply it together, we can go distance, fast, and speed of construction. It's all great. Add more value to it, though, is the carbon trade. And if we all got together globally, it's massive.
Oh, for sure.
Who would want to ever build concrete and steel vertically?
And there's the practical of this whole thing. You don't want your house to burn. You don't want this thing to burn down, right? So whatever we can do to prevent that is obviously a good thing. This is, this conversation encapsulates really the theme of materials exchange and the theme of what we as an industry need to be doing, which is thinking outside the box, finding a better solution.
And Mike, everybody loves to spin green and sustainable. So it's not truly sustainable until you're reforesting as fast as you're cutting and until you're defending the wood from fire.
Right.
You follow me?
Of course.
It's just a spin. So, the whole movement's got to recognize we're not attacking you. We believe in E119. It was basically there to prove in structural fire it's going to last longer than steel. However, you don't have anything to keep it from advance, and you don't have anything to keep the smoke index down to make exiting safer during construction. And that's what we're about.
Yeah.
Add the value to a carbon trade, they should be jumping on it.
Yeah.
And we'll do those carbon trades for them for free. And then we share in the carbon trade with them to bring them the value add for free. That's the goal.
Yeah, I love it. So look, we're coming up on a half an hour. This is a really interesting topic. Anyone who wants to get more information, go to mightyfirebreaker.com. You can get in touch with Steve there. As you can see, Steve is not a young 20-year-old. He's been around the block a few times. He's got some pretty good knowledge in there. So yeah, take advantage. I know he will. He'll help you out. There isn't a doubt in my mind. If you come across a situation where you need fire retardant, fire inhibitor in your construction process, this seems to be a good way to go. It's been proven across the United States. So thanks, Steve. We appreciate you coming on. And you've opened my eyes to the whole carbon credit thing. It's something I've kept my eye on for probably 15 to 20 years. And this is the first angle that I've seen it going into residential construction.
We need advocates like you, Mike. We need to change. We need to take wood to a higher level.
Well, change is actually a word that I don't like. I just remembered. We need to evolve. which of course means doing something different. But change for the sake of change isn't the answer. It's evolving, and it's what you're showing here is doing something different that is better.
Correct.
So yeah, I love it. Thanks, Steve. Thanks. I appreciate your time today.
Right on, buddy.
Anyone who needs to get in touch with him, it's Steve Conboy, Conboy. He's on LinkedIn. The company's Mighty Firebreaker. Thanks to all the supporters of Materials Exchange, and we're going to see you all next Friday with another great guest.
Thanks, Mike. Enjoy the football games.
Yeah, go Packers.
Right on, buddy.